Welcome to the 2014 Big V series of instructional YouTube videos aimed at assisting club delegates and administrators with operational and procedural requirements for the coming season. After this short introduction, we will also have clips focusing on season operations, weekly operations, policies, and media. First things first, as per the last two seasons, we keep all of our relevant documents required in administering your program within our Google Drive.
Go to google.com.au and click on the sign in the top right hand corner. From here you can enter the email address of bigvimages@gmail.com with the new password for the season, bigv2014. From here, go to the top right hand corner and click at the apps button where the cursor is currently located. Click on that, head down to Drive, and this will take you to where all our folders are located. Here you have the archive from 2012, last year's archive, Coach of the Month and Player of the Month, Ladders and Leaders, Operations, Policies, Previews, Resources, and Reviews.
Now that we are in the Google Drive, the season is fast approaching. It is important that you have your players, team managers and coaches registered, requests for any clearances submitted, to action any clearances pending for your club, and to distribute and have signed any underage identification forms for players 15 years and younger. We will take a moment to go through each of these processes with you, starting with registration. Click on the Operations folder, and from here at the top of the Operations folder is the previously distributed 2014 Big V Member Registration Guide. This guide is a step-by-step instruction manual on how to register players through the Sporting Pulse online registration link. We have a hint though to make it easier for your clubs, and we suggest that you send all of your coaches, team managers and players to the Big V website, which is www.bigv.com.au. On the home page, scroll down and you will see a large click here to register for the 2014 season. Players, coaches and team managers follow basic instructions on the Sporting Pulse system to register themselves for the season. It is important that anyone registering themselves in fact registers themselves. We cannot have club delegates doing this on their behalf, as anyone that registers with the league needs to agree to certain terms and conditions. Also, we all know that players can be hard to chase up in getting them to register before the start of the season. Our suggestion as another tip would be to send an iPad or a laptop down to your club's training session with internet connection, and to ensure that all players, coaches and team managers have registered before they left the building. This will make it easier for you.
Moving on to the clearances, still in the Operations folder you will notice the Big V Clearance User Guide. This is a guide with information on how to request and approve clearances. As an example, I'll head to reg.sportingpulse.com, and as you can see, I'll be using Alterna for the example. Please note that only club officials with access to this system can request for clearances. This system can only be used for those clearing from one Big V club to another. For those clearing from SEABL and other state leagues, a Basketball Australia domestic clearance form must be filled out and signed and scanned through to competitions at bigv.com.au. You can find this back in the Operations folder. Now to request a clearance, roll your cursor over Members and select Request for Transfer. From here, it will ask you to select the source state, choose Victoria and hit Select. The next stage will ask you for the source lead. Scroll down until you find Big V, hit Big V and hit Select. The next stage is to select the club in which the player is clearing from. In this example, I will be clearing Callum Chambers from the McKinnon Cougars. I scroll down until I find McKinnon and hit Select Club. Next, search for the player using their surname. In this case, it would be Chambers. Type it in and hit Select Member. The next part will give you the name or list of players resulting from the search. On the left-hand side of the player's name, there will be Select. Click that for the player you want to clear to your club. An email will then be sent to the player's original club from them to either accept or deny. Once accepted, it is up to the Big V office to finalise the clearance. If a clearance happens to be denied, the first point of call is for the player to contact their original club for reasons why.
While still in the operations folder of the Google Online Drive, we have the age identification form. The Big V age identification form is for players in the league that are under the age of 16. It's for parents and players, so they should be aware that players under the age of 16 will be consistently exposed to older and physically stronger athletes, and players under the age of 16 will often be travelling, training and playing in a more adult environment. As a club delegate or administrator, it is important that you distribute these forms to any players that you may have, whether they are in your youth teams or your senior teams that are under the age of 16. These need the athlete's name, a parent or guardian signature, and they need to be witnessed why they're being signed by the club delegate or administrator. Once these forms are signed, they need to be scanned and sent back to competitions@bigv.com.au. We need underage identification forms signed and returned to the league office before players under the age of 16 are able to take the court during the season. Now that you have your players registered, your clearances organised and your underage identification forms filled out, it is important that we move registered players into the appropriate team list. The reason for this team list is where the Live Stats program will take the names for on a weekly basis for which players are going to be playing on a particular weekend. Here, again in the operational folder, we have the modified member list guide. This is a step-by-step instruction on how to do what is a very easy process. We will go through an example for you now. Once again, in the reg.sportingpulse.com system, on your club screen, noticing that we're using McKinnon as an example, firstly, you click on the Teams button. This loads the teams that you have playing in the 2014 Big V competition. In this instance, we will use the McKinnon Cougars State Championship men's team. From clicking on the McKinnon Cougars State Championship men's team, we've now opened up their team page. We click on Members and Modify Team List. On the left, you will notice players that have registered for McKinnon for the 2014 season. To add players into their team list, you simply click on the plus sign, as we have done with Callum Chambers, and this drags players over into the State Championship men's team list. The 12 names that are placed here are the names that will be uploaded into the Live Stats file for the game weekly, so it is important as your team changes throughout the season that you ensure that it is up to date in the modified team list. So from now, you will be able to make sure your players are registered, you have requested your clearances and know how to action any clearance requests. You have your underage players have filled out and sent back underage identification forms, and you know how to modify your team list. If you have any questions or queries, please feel free to contact the Big V Competition Department, Competition Manager Nathan Sewell at competitions@bigv.com.au, and Competition Administrator Bethany Charles at admin@bigv.com.au with any queries.